Welcome, everyone, to the Inclusion Podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Costin.
And I'm Dr. Christy Preddy-Franzak. We're so glad you're here as we explore all things inclusion.
So whether you're a school leader, an educator, a parent, or simply passionate about inclusion, this podcast is for you.
In each episode, we go beyond the usual conversations, diving into what truly makes inclusive education work.
Together, let's make a difference, one conversation at a time. Here we go. Okay, everyone, welcome to episode 55, and it is about paraprofessionals hiding in plain sight.
So let's break it down. Two things. We're going to explain where we got that phrase, hiding in plain sight. And I think I got to tell you right away, you got to get the handout because you're going to be blown away, friends, about what you get there. So at inclusiveschooling.com/download 55, you are going to find all the ways paras can hide in plain sight. So Julie's going to explain what that means, but just know there's 29 pages of practical tips at inclusiveschooling.com/download 55. All right, Julie. Let's break it down. Why do we need those handouts and those?
Okay. So most people say one of the biggest problems with paraprofessional support is how obtrusive the support is, meaning how kids become reliant on the support or how kids feel squelched by the support. And it's not because of bad intentions. It's just essentially when we put an adult human next to a student, it causes so many inadvertent problems. So we turn to Jamie Burke, who's a good friend of mine, and he is somebody who was supported by a paraprofessional his whole life. And he has autism and he types to communicate. And he typed about this particular problem. And he did such a beautiful kind of analogy that Christy and I are going to take it and highlight it for this. He said, and he was talking about we being kids who are supported by paraprofessionals. We are willing and ready to connect with other kids, and adults must quietly step into the background, camouflaging their help as a tiger who may hide in full view. It's the needed disguise of the adult who smooths the way for friendship and then stands back in the shadows, observing the complicated dance steps of taking you to this feeling of confidence. So his concept here is that we've got to rethink paraprofessional support and think about camouflaging this help so that students can get to this feeling of confidence.
Yeah, and it's like, if you follow Julie and me or have been in any of our trainings, we talk about different types of support. And in general, we talk about human support as the support of last resort. That's a lot of support. And we also talk about that support's not a person or a place, but support is the actions people do. So when we say humans are the support of last resort, we mean the actions that would be given by a adult, a related service provider, a co-teacher, and then certainly a paraprofessional or educational assistant. We want different types of supports to be provided before it's that sort of notion that I have to be physically there. That said, we know that paraprofessionals provide some of the most important support students need. So how do we hold that tension between knowing that paras do amazing work and we take this idea of camouflage, or like Julie and I are paraphrasing, hiding in plain sight? So we wanted to give a couple of ideas about how to manage that tension.
Okay, our first idea, Christy, that you don't even know that I'm going to suggest is for anybody who's read the Harry Potter series, we just need invisibility cloaks for paraprofessionals, right? So we just go ahead and try to get invisibility cloaks for your paraprofessionals, and then they can secretly do all the support needed, and then they're no longer in plain sight. So that's my first idea.
I mean, why not? I mean, like, that just solves it. I don't think you need our 29-page handout.
Forget it. Thank you so much, everybody. No.
Yeah, we're done. That was a quick episode. Good job for us.
So
I think it does warrant taking that idea and sort of do put that cloak or that analogy over every decision we make. So if we're going to be at an IEP meeting and we say, oh, we're going to actually have a one-to-one aid for this kid so they can be included, which, we're going to try not to roll our eyes at. We would say, okay, and are you going to pair them, the para, with a cloaking device? And if the answer is no, then maybe it's not the best idea. Maybe we have to rethink what could the para do that would be cloaked. I don't know. I think it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I think so. So for one, play around with that idea.
Yeah.
And for two, we're going to give you even more strategies that kind of relate to that idea. Okay. So, like the first big idea in this handout that you're going to receive from the podcast is 20 ways to provide invisible or silent supports. And this is the most direct application to this podcast because what it does is it says, what can you ask paras to do that are not about sitting by, standing by, or talking directly to a kid who does not want that type of intrusive support?
Which one were you doing, Julie?
The 20 ways to provide invisible or silent support.
Yeah. I'm scrolling, friends, because I was clear at the bottom and she started at the top, which makes total sense. Okay.
And so I just wanted people to know that if you grab this handout, I'll give you a couple quick ideas.
Good.
Something like highlighting the directions in the same color all the time so kids know where to look for the directions.
Isn't that funny that you just said in the same color? Because I find that makes sense. Like when we're even doing our work, if somebody changes their color, it's like, no, you're supposed to be fuchsia. No, you're supposed to be orange. Why are you now yellow?
Right. And so you might be really clear that green always means these are the directions and they're the go signal and they mean here we go. And so you can play with what color kids choose for their directions, but essentially keeping them the same is going to be one fewer change in your nervous system.
And one fewer direction or reminder that the adult has to provide. The student comes to know green means X and yellow means Y, and I don't need even a human to decode that.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
I'm just going to pick a second one on this one because I love it so much. And it's just this concept of when a teacher is saying, turn to page 275. So often we'll watch a paraprofessional scooch over and help the kid open to page 275 because they might have trouble with numeration, they might have trouble with the motor skills, all the kinds of things. Couple things you can do is you could just have everybody work with a partner to make sure they're on the right page. That's beautiful. Or ahead of time, have a sticky note right there so kids know where to turn and they don't need that additional intrusive support.
And it's such, Julie, you're just saying things that we probably do for ourselves all the time. Like when I was in Iowa without you a couple of weeks ago, I was going to have to read from The Way to Inclusion. And I was like, oh, I'm going to have to be ready to read aloud. And you know how I feel about reading aloud. So I put a big sticky note and highlighted the section where I had to read so that I didn't fumble for the page, didn't have to do anything, but just read aloud.
That's right. So you reduced all the expectations for that specific task.
Yeah.
And it just targeted the thing, which you already struggled with. And that's the thing is we don't want kids to struggle with finding the page. That's not the issue.
Right.
We want to get to the content that's on that page. So that's just a quick example. And there are 20 more that might really excite you when you're thinking about how do we provide silent support or how do we camouflage our support so that kids can be more independent.
So what Julie's saying is that for the download, which is at inclusiveschooling.com/download 55, she went with the first of several handouts. There's 6 of them in this packet. And she said, this is most directly tied to this notion of hiding in plain sight or camouflaging. I was going to go to the last one, Julie, which is the 110 ways paraprofessionals can support students, because I like that we have some things that paras can do before a lesson and some things that a para can do after a lesson, because I felt like that was a way to you don't need to be even near the student and you're offering and doing an action that provides support. So I'm going to scroll down to page 21, which is 10 ways to do an action or provide support after a lesson or after class. Because sometimes we think, okay, made it through that math lesson, moving on. And so one thing was that we could think about to-do list. We could write a note to families that talks about how things went or what to carry over into if there is homework. We might even have like a station after the math lesson. You know, like me, sometimes things take me a minute. You've even seen it in this podcast. Like I faded out. Where are we? What are we doing? What are we back on? So like, let's say after the math lesson, a question comes to my mind about math. Then I know I can go and ask somebody at that station. It could be the para. Hey, what were we supposed to do with that math homework again tonight? Because I don't remember. So it's like 2 hours later, but now I know my question.
Yes. I love that. And I just want to add one more kind of weird one, which is do nothing. And
I always
so,
love that one.
yeah. And why I love that is I'm just thinking of a very specific example, but I have seen it maybe 100 times where a paraprofessional might be supporting a specific student. And it's a bit of a social time where kids are hanging out, chatting, they're done with the stuff, they're waiting for the bell to ring, whatever it is. And the paraprofessional beelines over and starts a social conversation with the kid they're supporting. And this would be the place to do nothing, to engage with other children, to allow for social interaction to occur. And so that's just another strategy that I love because it involves doing nothing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Julie, because it's kind of like when we talk about to avoid planned ignoring, but when a student is in neurological dysregulated state, to approach silently or aim for connection. And it sounds like we're saying opposite things. So for right now, you're saying do nothing, but we want you to know that that nothing is actually doing something so that you can explain to other team members or anyone observing you that we're not saying, oh, go get your phone and check the weather or text a friend, that you can then maybe offer support to another student, help with prep materials, notice if something in the room could, be lowered or diminished to regulate nervous systems. So there's still work to be done, but there's nothing that is needed to support that student. At the most, in this same handout of 110 strategies, there's 10 ways to teach students how to create connections. So maybe right as a lesson ends, you do a social script so that during that 30 seconds, 3 minutes downtime, they know or are reminded what to do. So you can set them up for success, highlight that people are doing something that's of interest, or like your example in another podcast, Julie, about like playing chess together, making sure they have their chess pieces or chessboard ready, and then you're done. So it's that always that dance that Jamie was talking about too.
That's right. That's right. So sometimes the art of this work is to decide when to do nothing and when to do something, when to facilitate a social relationship and then when to back out, when to provide a sentence starter. So it might be like, ooh, I wonder what you're going to do this weekend. Then you step out of the way and kids start to talk to one another. That's called a facilitative behavior. And it means they're creating connections between kids. But then they're quickly stepping out of the conversation and not staying in the center and being like, I plan to go to the movies with my kids this weekend, and, keeping it about you. You want to make those connections and then get out so that kids can engage as best they can naturally.
Excellent. All right. So if you're interested in all of our ways to hide in plain sight or to camouflage or to put a cloaking device on, make sure you get the download for this episode, which is inclusiveschooling.com/download 55.
Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and catch up on past episodes where we share valuable insights, straight talk, and practical steps to challenge outdated special education practices. You can find every episode with the show notes at inclusiveschooling.com/inclusion-podcast to build more inclusive schools together.